This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, where we spread awareness for men's mental health and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. New episodes drop weekly. Welcome back to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Steve. Tonight, I am joined by Caralyn Dreyer. She is a mental health advocate and a survivor. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in forensic psychology. She's bringing on a lot of expertise tonight, and she's going to share her testimony, talk a lot about mental health. We're also going to cover some areas that may trigger you, so I want to give you forewarning. We're going to cover domestic violence. We're going to cover alcohol abuse. We're going to cover suicide. And we're also going to talk about being bullied and how racism plays a part. So this is going to be a heavy episode tonight, but I'm extremely grateful to have Caralyn on the show. And before I forget, she's also the host of her own podcast. It's called Through the Darkness Mental Health Recovery Podcast. So she's going to bring in a lot of knowledge tonight for you guys, the listeners. And hey, while you're watching, go ahead and hit subscribe at the bottom of your page here on YouTube so you don't miss an episode. I drop new episodes on every Wednesday and every Thursday. Caralyn Dreyer, thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. It's really an honor to sit down with you tonight.
It is an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. Well, kind of for our listeners and our viewers, I'd like to kind of start out just from the beginning of your story and kind of start out in childhood and then just kind of work from there. So kind of talk about how school was, what life looked like for you, and then we'll just kind of move on into where you are today. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. So, I grew up with two younger brothers, an older sister. I grew up in the Midwest in a small town, very religious, predominantly Caucasian. I'm an adoptee. I was adopted, I think, around like a year old, maybe a little bit older than that. It was a closed adoption, so I don't know any information about my biological parents. That was really hard for me growing up. And to this day, I often wonder, like, how did I get up every single morning as a kid and like reconcile with the fact that I'm adopted? Like, I don't know if I ever really did, honestly. I didn't like the fact that I didn't have siblings who looked like me. Um, for example, my adoptive father is white. So I would feel awkward sometimes going to the store with him by myself because I would be so self-conscious that people were like, oh my gosh, did he kidnap her? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me as a kid, it seemed like it was probably such a strange sight for the outsiders. Um, so that was really rough. I did have a lot of adoption in my family. My older sister was adopted. We are not biologically related. My adoptive mom was adopted, and then I have two uncles that were also adopted. So from that standpoint, I didn't feel like as alone. It was really like the skin color thing that really was tough for me. Um, I did experience some bullying because of my skin color. I was called the N-word, I think in like second or third grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, where where I grew up, I would not say it was a racist area by any means, but I was one of like a handful of minorities in my school. Um, so yeah, it's a shame stuff like that happens so young. Um, and then of course, I think fourth grade, some girl was like, yeah, your skin is brown because you take a bath in mud every night.
Dang.
Yeah, man, these kids, they can be
Brutal.
brutal.
Yeah.
Seriously. I
Man.
mean, but look, her nickname was Blowtorch for some strange reason. So I wasn't very kind to her either. Certainly it didn't warrant the racial remark,
Right.
but you know, kids say crazy things. I got made fun of because my teeth, I didn't have braces yet, so my front teeth stuck out, so I got called, like, buck teeth, blubber
Damn.
lips, because I have yeah,
Jeez, man.
I r think about it to this day, like and I had to go on the school bus and face
Mm.
this stuff, and I don't remember my parents I don't look, I'm not saying they didn't stick up for me, but if this was happening to my son, I would be on that school bus the next day, like, "Who was talking to him like that?"
Yeah,
Like, that's not cool.
right.
To each their own, but it's like all I had so much stuff to handle just in elementary age. I mean, some of these things happened when I was, like, 1st, 2nd grade.
Man.
Yeah, so it was a rough childhood was a little bit rough. It wasn't terrible. Like, I had friends. I think I kinda developed, like, this like, the funny girl or, like, doing dares and stuff like that to
Mm.
kind of try to fit in. Um, so elementary school was interesting. I will say this, I grew up in the church.
Okay.
Like, quite literally, my parents worked at the church. My dad did, like, the sound and lights for the Sunday service. My mom did stuff with worship and things like that. So, if it wasn't for growing up with that faith, I don't know how I would have done. I didn't really do so great anyway, but I think it would have been far worse. I at least had some semblance of there's something bigger out there that accepts me just as I am, but also somebody made me like this. So I'm supposed to be this way. And I unfortunately I didn't realize that until I was an adult. But my faith and having church and all that stuff, I think really, really helped. And then we go to middle school, which was also pretty brutal. um
Can I ask
it
you a question? Can I ask you a question real
Yeah,
quick?
yeah,
So when you were in elementary school and you were so involved with the church, did you have any
yeah.
friends from church that maybe would stick up for you when these kids would pick on you and call you these horrible names?
Well, here's the thing. No, I didn't experience these things, like, with my church friends. This was all stuff so I had, like, separate friends because we didn't go to the same school. A lot of my friends went
Oh,
to a Christian
okay.
school, yeah. So
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
literally had, like, church friends and then school friends. There was a couple
Okay.
overlapping, but I would hope my church friends would have at least stuck up for me, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so I I'm sure somebody the teachers did, thank God for
No,
them. At
that's
least I
good.
had teachers who addressed the situation, so I wasn't totally alone. Um, so middle school comes. Again, I had friends, I had boyfriends, but I just the skin color thing just got worse and worse. And then I had this experience in 6th grade. So I didn't like having long hair growing up for some strange reason, so I always had short hair, like Toni Braxton, if you're familiar with
Okay.
her, like,
Yeah.
she had really short hair, or like
Yeah.
Pink, like
Yeah.
hair like that. So, I was thinking my hairstyle looked fine. So school pictures roll around and we finally get them back. And so I'm showing them to my friends thinking like I look so great. And some boy was like, why do you have an afro? And I was like, no, I don't. And then I went home and I looked at the picture and I promise you, just that boy saying that to me instantly changed like the way that I saw myself. And I looked at my picture and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I promise you from that day on, I became obsessed with my hair. Like, I would be running late if there was, like, one little hair out of place, it would ruin my day because I started really looking at myself and thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I guess I don't look as great as I thought I did."
Mm.
And I placed such importance on, external validation that it really led me down a really bad path. I developed an eating disorder. Um, I never had weight problems. I'm 4'11". I'm, like,
Wow.
super tiny.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
I've been
Wow.
the same height since 5th grade. Isn't
No
that
kidding.
crazy? And I'm
That is crazy.
44. That's
Wow.
got to be some kind of world record or something.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
um so I wasn't overweight. Nobody teased me about my weight, but I told myself like, "Oh my gosh, if we gain weight, then we're really going to stick out. I already have different skin color. Apparently my hairstyle is not working for me either." So I started calorie restriction. Um, I didn't start purging until I want to say it was like maybe eighth grade. It for sure ramped up in high school. And it was just after I would eat, I thought I was going to get fat. And I started to develop a thing where I felt guilty after I ate. And I was eating normal portion sizes, like, I wasn't overeating, and this was occurring while I'm in my parents' home. Like, I would eat dinner and then go upstairs to my bathroom and, get rid of my dinner, and then
Did
just kinda, you
could they
know
could they tell? Did they ever suspect maybe you had eating disorder?
I don't think so because
Wow.
I ended up again, my memory's, like, foggy. It was, like, 8th or ninth grade. I was very involved in youth group. Thank God for my youth group leaders because I felt comfortable talking to them about a lot of my struggles that I didn't feel comfortable
Mm,
talking about with my parents. So, I shared with the youth group leader at this conference that we went to, and, they supported me, but they called my mom because I was, like, a teenager, and I understand her reaction now as an adult, but at the time, she was like, "Well, who told you you have an eating disorder?" Like, it was very, like, abrasive, like, I was expecting, "Oh my gosh, like, are you okay? What can I do?" And that's not the reaction that I got, and that was a real turning point because after that, I just didn't trust my mom to tell her anything ever again, and, that led to, like, a lot of isolation and stuff like that. So, middle school was rough. I tried to run away in 6th
really?
grade. Yeah, I don't know where I was going. I packed, like, some extra clothes in my backpack. I hung back at the end of the day and didn't get on the school bus. So, I go in the bathroom, and I'm hiding in the stall, and then all of a sudden I hear, Caralyn Dreyer, your mom's on the phone, like, over the PA system, like, "Oh, man." So, I go to the office, my mom picks me up. I don't really remember the conversation, but I'm sure she was like, "Where were you gonna go? What were you gonna do?" But I was, even at that age, wanting to run away, like, from my life.
Yeah.
And more so probably running away from who I am because my parents were not abusive. I was well taken care of, all that type of stuff, but I just school and the social life was just terrible. It was really hard.
Did you say that you had siblings in the house with you that were
Yeah,
adopted also? Did they stick up for you at all at school? Were they similar in age?
let's see, my sister was a grade or 2 older, and then my brothers were, like, younger, like
Okay.
elementary school. Um If they were sticking up for me, it maybe was if they heard people talking about me behind my back, but I don't think that they probably happened to be around when this was taking place. Um, and quite honestly, I don't even remember how I reacted to it. Um, I don't know if I cried or if I fought back or what I did, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure I didn't fight back because I don't recall my parents raising us to, like, stick up for ourselves. It was more like, treat others the way you wanna be treated, but with that, we were kind of expecting, like, "Oh, well, I'm treating people kindly, so they're gonna do the same in return." So, we weren't really taught that that's not really how that goes, unfortunately. Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah.
So you get that was in 6th grade that you said you were gonna try to run away, and then your mom
Yep.
your mom came to school. So
Yep.
so so you get through middle school, and as you get into high school, did you kinda gravitate towards, like, sports or something where maybe? Because I know, like, for me personally, I got bullied, but once I got into sports, it kind of shifted because I played baseball. So baseball wasn't like it was a varsity sport, but you weren't as
Right.
cool as like the football or the basketball team,
Right.
but you still were kind of looked at as like, okay, don't mess with him because he's on the team.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is for girls, but like my high school, because I could relate some of the bullying too. But did you kind of find your niche in high school, or what did that look like?
Well, I was in the marching band.
Okay.
I was a band geek.
Okay.
Somehow I was in the color guard for a couple years.
Wow.
They were very patient with me because I was not very coordinated. Um, but I'm pretty sure that helped because, like I said, even though I had bullying and stuff like that, I always had friends.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was helpful. It's not like I was a loner. I'm sure if I was a loner, things would have been a lot different. But being in band and having that group of friends, and then I was always one of those kids that would talk to everybody. Like I was never gonna single anybody out. So I was kind of friends with everyone. Maybe not so much like the popular kids because I
Mhm.
found them like intimidating, but for the most part, I was saying hi to everybody, being friendly. So, you have those protective factors. So, certainly, I had a protective factor of having a good supportive group of friends around me, even though I was having to navigate some of these things. I mean, my friends didn't know I had an eating disorder, so they didn't know that was going on. I mean, because you just don't really share that with people.
Right. Yeah, especially at that age. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did you maintain that disorder in high school, or did you kinda how did that look how did that look for you?
Um, I started really just limiting my calorie intake because I really didn't want to be purging or throwing up all the
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, though, it is something I'm still in recovery from, not the purging part or even really the calorie restriction. It's just eating is not an easy thing for me. My depression and anxiety affect that as well. But it's something that's always going to be there, and as I got older, it got worse. I recall in my 20s, I saw a picture of myself, and I was wearing, like, size 0, which I look at a 0 now, and I was like, "Holy cow, like, how did I even fit in there?" And I saw this picture of myself, and that was the first time in, 10, 15 years that I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm way too skinny." Like, that doesn't even look healthy, and so I'd never went to treatment for this, and I do not advocate for trying to handle eating disorders and those heavier things on your own. Yeah. I so I just kinda struggled with it on and off through adulthood. I would say at this point in my 40s, I'm the healthiest I've ever been, but like I said, eating, it can be a struggle sometimes, but I just have to remind myself that it's not something that's harmful, it's something that I need, it's like a necessity.
Fuel. Look at it that
Yeah,
way. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you had an interesting time in school. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you this. So we go from high school, now we're kind of moving into college. What made you choose criminal justice for a bachelor's degree?
Well, it didn't start out that way. Initially, I wanted to be a social work major.
Okay. My mom's a
Um,
social worker.
yeah, that's awesome.
Retired social worker, but yeah, she was a social
Okay.
worker.
That's yes, you need to have, like, a special heart and spirit for that field, for sure. My dad, the king of practicality, was like, "Yeah, I don't know if that's such a good field to get into," so I switched to being an English major, and I was gonna be an English teacher, but I was like, "I don't wanna do this, like, this is not fun."
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after my sexual assault that I changed my major to criminal justice.
Okay.
And I would assume it's because I didn't file a police report after my sexual assault. Um, it happened when I was 19, freshman year of college, Easter weekend. I was at a house party. Um, I'll fast forward, long story short, I wake up naked on a bed in a bedroom. Um, I didn't realize what was going on at first when I woke up because I'd been drinking um before this happened. And I like kind of come to and I realize that somebody's having intercourse with me. And I like froze and tears just like streamed down my face. I didn't scream. I'm not quite sure what alerted someone to turn the bedroom light on, but when they did, there was more than one individual in there. Somebody said an expletive after that, and then next thing I know, people are scattering out of the room. At some point, somebody came and sat with me. There had been a couple of people at that party that went to my college. This happened to be a party that was across the state from where I went to school. Somebody sat with me until I don't remember if I fell back asleep, but it was later in the morning. My friend came back and got me. Um, we drove to my parents' house for Easter dinner. Mind you, I had just been sexually assaulted like hours before this. We went straight there because I was
Wow.
supposed to have gone there the night before, but I wanted to go to this party. So I'm sitting through Easter dinner. My younger brothers were there, my mom and dad, and then my friend. I was like digging my fingernails into my hand to keep from crying because I
Yeah.
still hadn't even like processed what had happened. So
Wow.
we make it through Easter dinner. I get back to college campus. Another friend brought me to the local YWCA. I
Mm.
had a rape kit done. They found a condom stuck inside of me. And when I was told that, I promise you, like my whole spirit just like left my body. And I really just like it hit me like what had happened to me. And
Man.
um, I didn't file a police report, as I was saying. I went to one counseling session, but decided I just want to be done with this. I didn't want my parents to find out. I had been drinking. There's all those like stigmas attached to
Hmm.
sexual assault and reporting. So I tried my best to move on. Um, that didn't go so great. Um, I ended up getting alcohol poisoning soon after that because I just was trying to numb everything. So I almost died from that. When the paramedics arrived, they couldn't find my heartbeat. I woke up in the emergency room, um, and went home the next day or whatever, and everything kind of went downhill after that. I had my suicide attempt, because th- I mean, the sexual assault in and of itself was a lot, but I think just even everything from childhood, middle school, high
Hmm.
school, like all these unresolved emotions, I just, I don't want to say I wanted to die. I just didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just didn't know what else to do. But what stopped me is I wrote a letter to my family. And the more I thought about it, I was like, how can I leave them like this? And they have to like deal with me not wanting to be here anymore. And I called a friend, they came over. So I think because I didn't have any resolve with the sexual assault, I think that that's probably what guided me to get into criminal justice so that maybe one day I could fight for other people in that way or, pursue justice or, whatever I was thinking about at the time.
I just want to say thank you for sharing that. That is just so courageous of you to just recount those events. And I'm just so sorry that you had to experience that. And I understand why you'd want to pursue criminal justice after that. I wanted to ask though, because you didn't file a report, and obviously the stigma, I understand what you're saying because there's drinking involved. Did you feel like you could reach out to maybe some of those church leaders that you had in the past, or did you stop because you were afraid they would talk to your parents?
You know what? That's such a good question, and I had kind of separated myself from that life. Now I stopped talking to pretty much anybody. I was estranged from my family for several years actually after that. No, I didn't, and yeah, it's interesting because the chaplain at the school that I went to, he actually had been my youth minister. And so
Really?
I did have access to people, but I think I just was, like, so ashamed. I don't know if I was afraid of them telling my parents per se. I think I was just so ashamed because I had been drinking at that time. I still hadn't allowed myself to believe that it wasn't my fault. It's even hard for me to this day to not speak about it without not putting it on myself. Um, Certainly being inebriated is not an invitation for those types of things to happen. So, yeah, I wish I would have had the courage at that time to reach out, but it's like, where do you get that from?
I I I and I don't want you to beat yourself up because I mean,
No, not at
that's a
all. Not at
lot, that's a
all.
lot. Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
wanna talk to anybody either. I was just curious because it sounded like earlier you
Yeah,
kinda had that,
I did.
that support group. Let me ask you this, Carolyn. So you go through those, traumatic events where because you had a foundation growing up kinda in church, did
Yeah.
did that change your outlook on God or your faith because of something so just us call it evil, let's call it what it is, could
Yeah.
happen to you? Did that change your perspective on your faith or anything?
That's such a good question. No, I don't think so because I continued to, like, go to church. I was in the
Good,
gospel
good,
choir.
nice.
And I think that's probably because I still had not wrapped my head around the fact that that was not your fault. And not only that, there was like a lot of details that I had kind of like pushed away. I literally pushed that out of my mind and life like as much as I possibly could. Years later, I did get the courage and I wanted to file a police report, but the statute of limitations had run out. And that was like another kind of like a crushing moment because it's like I finally mustered up this courage and now it's too late. And I always told myself that this happened this way and I pray that these young men never do something like this again and they take this opportunity. And maybe that was extremely naive of me to hope that, but I did. I That was the only way that I could, like, move past it was to hope something good can come out of this, and maybe they will see this as, like, "What am I doing with my life? I can't be doing these types of things," and maybe they will never do it again. The likelihood of that happening statistically, I don't know, but
Right.
that's the only way I could move on from it was to hope that by me missing the boat on reporting it allowed these young men a second chance.
Well, and I think too, just hearing you talk, you have a good heart and it keeps you from holding on to hatred or um
Yeah,
you're not giving them the power by holding
right.
on to well, you know this better than me with your expertise, but like basically you're not giving them the power because you're holding on to this
Yep,
hatred or this, you don't
absolutely.
sound like a victim. I guess that's the best what I'm trying to say is like
Yeah,
hearing you talk, you're talking with confidence and hey, I hope they learn from this versus like,
yeah.
those people did this to me and you just sound to me, you sound courageous in itself just speaking that way versus holding on to anger, which is,
Yeah.
for me, that's easier to hold on to anger, but that's just
Yeah.
me. But and I've had to work
Yeah.
through that too. And then my faith, and obviously faith plays a big role in that. But that is very admirable. Like that isn't very encouraging to hear you speak that way. And I hope that people
Thank
listening
you.
right now can hear that and realize you don't want to give someone your power. Move on
No.
and, you know, wish them well, and then don't let
Yeah.
them don't let them keep a grip on your life because of something horrible they did to you.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Did you ever have so you get into criminal justice, did you have the desire to become a police officer, or was it more of the legal side of it?
Laughing because, yes, I did wanna be a police officer.
Okay.
However, when I really sat and thought about it, number 1, I was like, I don't know about being a woman in a male-dominated field. I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna like that, and then, of course, there was okay, granted, there's short cops out there, but I was like, "Really? I'm 4'11", I'm pulling someone over, are they really gonna take me seriously?" So I
Yeah.
kinda actually looked at it more from, like, a safety standpoint, and granted, you go through the academy and they train you and this, but I kinda decided against that, and I was like, I think I'm making a a good decision here." So then I decided I wanted to maybe go into, juvenile probation,
Mm.
because I had done an internship at the local detention center, and I loved it. Like, I love paperwork, I like getting to know people, I like helping people, um, but what happened after that? I don't oh, I that's when I had entered my first abusive relationship, and that's how I kinda ended off track in terms of, like, starting a career. Um, yeah, that relationship had kind of taken me away from that. Did you want me to go into that a little bit?
If you're okay with
I'm
that, I think
comfortable.
yeah, I think
I'm that's one thing about me, like, I'm so far past a lot of these things, like, I want to share as much as I can to help somebody else.
yeah, I
Um,
think it'd be great if you, yeah, share away. I think it'd be beneficial.
and I'll kinda just summarize too. I was had to have been 19 or 20 when I met this individual. I met him at a nightclub, the worst place to try to find your future wife or husband. I'm just saying it's not the best place. I meet this guy, he seems charming, blah, 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 this and this. We end up dating. I move in with him, and I soon find out that he is verbally abusive, very controlling. um, he would comment about what I was wearing. If he didn't approve, I needed to go change. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. Um, I had to vacuum the carpet with, like, straight lines, like, you know how you mow the lawn?
Wow. No
Yeah, and
kidding.
to
Never
this
even heard of
day,
that.
I
Hmm.
do that still to this day.
Wow.
20 years later, I still do that. It's so interesting that I do, but yeah, it had to be straight straight lines. Um He the first time he was physically abusive, he put his hand around my throat at a party because I walked in without greeting him. We had just argued before that, so I was like, we just argued, like, I personally didn't wanna say hi, I don't think
Yeah.
that he did either. So I
Right.
walk in and he calls me into the kitchen, sticks me up against the wall with his hand on my neck and says, "Don't you ever disrespect me like that in front of people ever again." And put you know, we I stepped back. I left the party. Another time, after intercourse, he defecated on me, and I would use the appropriate term.
Kidding.
Yes, he
Wow.
did. Yes.
That's horrible.
It is horrible. It is, you really think you don't know, like, how sick and twisted people can be, but yeah, and some might be wondering, well, how did you allow that? Well, at this stage in life, my self-esteem and self-worth was nothing. And remind everybody, this has started since childhood. And here I am, 19, 20 years old. Somebody tells you, if you love me, you will do this. He had already been physical with me. He already is verbally abusive. Who's going to know? I let him do it. He laughed about it. I cleaned myself up. We never talked about it again. I know I did not break up with him after this, because at this stage in life also, I suffered from, like, severe anxious attachments. Um, when you grow up like me, anybody being nice or kind to you, you just suck that up, you soak it in, even if they're doing this other crappy, horrible stuff to you. You just figure, well, at least acceptance some of the time is better than nothing at all. And so I continued to stay with him. There was another time he pushed me down in a parking lot, and that was the night I called my sister from inside of a closet because I was terrified. She lived across the country, so it's not like she could have helped me or anything, but I just needed that connection to somebody outside of my nightmare to let me know it was gonna be okay. Surprisingly enough, he ended up breaking up with me, but that was my first moment of, like, liberation. I got my own apartment, I got back into school, um, and I slowly started, like, rebuilding my life. He tried to get back together with me after that, and I was strong enough to say no. I was like, "Do you not remember, what happened in our relationship?" And he tried to, like, laugh stuff off, and I was like, "Sorry, buddy. You're not getting me again. See you later."
Did he leave you
Oh,
alone after that? Did he kinda stay away?
he he did. He actually tried to contact me a couple of years ago on Facebook,
Wow.
and I've actually heard that he might live where I live now.
No way.
Yeah, I saw his mom at the grocery store probably about 2 years ago, and I locked eyes with her. I didn't say hi to her. No, I don't have anything against her, but that's awkward. Your
Yeah,
abuser's
totally.
mother.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
she didn't seem slighted that I didn't say hi either, but, yeah, he left me alone, but like I said, had recently reached out to me. I blocked him. I can't say I would be afraid to run into him per se. It would definitely give me anxiety. Um, but yeah, that was my first abusive relationship. And I was one of those girls that was like, how do women or men for that matter, how do they stay in relationships like that? Like, I would just leave. No, you don't always just leave. It's not always that simple.
Right, right.
So
Did you ever consider maybe you have, like, taken, like, self-defense classes or, maybe look at, be more vigilant when you're out because you had to experience or you did experience that type of relationship that it kinda changed your viewpoint on things or maybe, like, how the world operates at all?
You know, I think that because at this time also I was starting to be dependent on drinking. Now, it was more of a social thing. I was not drinking for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was always like before bed or if I had to be in social settings. So I think because of that, I wasn't of a sound mind to even be afraid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It
I'm
does.
sure I was hyper vigilant back then for sure, but back then I had no idea even that you could get PTSD from things like that. I thought it was strictly for first responders or military vets. So I think the drinking masked actually like a lot of stuff. And I started being a people pleaser, so you control so many different things so that you don't have to be in confrontational situations.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so, um, that yeah, that was a hard time, and at that point, it was after that, I was doing, like, okay. I was back in school, I was working a couple of different jobs, but the nighttime drinking was definitely not a good thing at all. It really wasn't, and that's where my anger came out. I have not
Mm,
always been this kind and, like, good-hearted after such crappy things, I haven't, and when I would drink, certainly I wasn't out there like the Hulk, but I have a pretty a 4'11" Hulk, a mini Hulk.
his little sister.
Right. So certainly I wasn't out here like getting in bar fights, but I have a slick tongue. Like I can go to town
Yeah.
if provoked. So I was more that type of thing or just like
Okay.
attitude with people like that type of stuff. But I think because of that dependence on alcohol and this carried on, from my 20s and then it tapered off like into my 30s, but I think because of that, I mean your mind is like mush, you're not sleeping properly. Um I just didn't really even have the time to understand the magnitude of what had happened to me up until that point. And then there's the shame aspect too. People don't always understand domestic violence and they think they're being helpful with their comments, but they're really not. And
Yeah.
that's why it's important to talk about things like this so people can kind of understand.
Let's talk about alcohol for a little bit. That's a subject that I have a lot of experience with personally, and I understand your point about where the anger would kind of come out when you drank. That
Mm,
that was me. And it was kind of a way for me. I had so much shame inside. That was a way for me to numb it, but it would kind of come out in anger.
yes.
I feel like on certain podcasts, maybe there's not enough focus on alcohol. And because I have
Hmm.
the most experience with that when it comes to self sabotage, I like to kind of talk about that a little bit if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
How did you when okay, so we're numbing, we're dealing with shame, and obviously alcohol is it's not a healthy tool, but it's a good tool
Right.
if you're trying to numb.
Yeah.
What did you have like a do you have like a rock bottom moment at this point in your life? I know you had the alcohol poisoning in college, but later in life, after this abusive relationship, and you're kind of, you're in your 20s, did you have a certain moment where you realized, okay, this isn't good for me, or I need to slow down, or I need to get help? Did you have kind of a breakthrough moment with alcohol
I
at all?
did.
Okay.
I did. I'm not really going to go into too much because this is a chapter of my life I've not really spoken about. But what I will say
Okay.
is this: I worked at a bar and there I just was drinking so much and then I was having flashbacks sometimes when I would drink too much. And so that would come out and I was noticing like I need to drink to be able to work this job.
Mm,
And it started to just get out of hand and I finally realized like I cannot keep doing this. Like I'm making a fool of myself among other things, this is not healthy. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I did reach out to God during that time and I had a conversation with God and I said, I am going to leave this behind and I'm never going to go back to it. And I know when you have conversations like that with God, that's what that's what you need to stick to. And the way I saw it is I'm closing this chapter, and I know if I try to go back to it, like God is not going to be blessing me the way that I want my life to be. And so that was like my rock bottom, and I was like, yeah, I got to stop doing this. I attempted to get a job in Florida at a juvenile detention center. I worked there for 4 days. Because much like the law enforcement, possible career, this one also did not really work out. The kids were sizing me up when I was taking
mm,
a tour. Most of them were taller than me. Um, I sat in the break room and they had statistics for how often they had to, like, physically restrain people, and I
Wow.
was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "Again, I know they're gonna train me, but
Yeah.
this is not how I wanna be working with the youth. This is
I'm
not."
out.
I was. I did. I was like, "I'm so sorry to have I literally was there for 4 days.
That's awesome.
4 days. I tried to stick it out. I really did, but
Yeah.
I was like, for me, like, that's the thing about me. When I'm done, like, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
there's no,
You're just
I'm
too
done.
smart. You're too smart for that job. That's what it was. Like, I'm out of
I,
here, man. So-
I was like, no, I can't see myself wrestling a child. And granted, they probably need me to in those instances, but
yeah.
I can't even see myself doing that. Um, But you know what? That's when I got into forensic psychology, actually, because
Okay.
I was like, okay, another another missed opportunity here. Let's see what else is out here. And I got into grad school and it was on a fluke. I accidentally filled out one of those online forms just
Yeah.
thinking I was going to get mailed information, but it
Yeah.
was for someone to call me. And that rep was really, really good because I ended up signing up for school, and that's how I got
Wow.
into grad school, and I
Nice.
chose forensic psychology because I had always loved psychology since high school, and I think even back then, it helped me understand myself and some of the things I was going through, and I'm like, even though I've been in situations where I've been a victim of maybe, like, criminal activity or whatever, the mind of criminals is so fascinating to me, and it's strictly because at some point in their life, they had, like, a starting point, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
I'm, like, interested in their history, like, what about their family life, or what about this experience or that experience made them into the criminal that they are. So, yeah, forensic psychology seemed like the best fit at that
Can I
time, but
can I pick your
yeah,
brain real quick?
yeah, you
Okay.
can.
I just thought of this. So you're talking about kind of the criminal mind and maybe the aspects of the environment growing up and stuff. This is a broad statement. I'm not trying to sound judgmental, but it's just my brain went here with this. Why is it, in your opinion, in your expertise, um, and I'm a veteran and I'm a former police officer. So when I say this, I'm talking about myself. Why is it so common for men in those roles to have short fuses, maybe not extreme violence towards women, but maybe like I'll try to tread lightly here. Use intimidation, use yelling, use physical, force at times. That seems to be, I can't say in 2026, but at least let's go back 15 years ago when I was in
Yeah,
law enforcement. It was more common than it probably was brought to light. And then there's a running joke, and this is kind of a dark humor joke about
yeah.
cops in domestic violence. What is your expert opinion on these type of individuals? Do you think it's an environmental thing, stuff they saw as kids, or is it just the job makes them so pent up that they kind of lash out at people that are closest to them?
I think it's a combination of the 2. I definitely think it would be something that maybe they grew up seeing, but also just the fact that men in general, they're not really taught how to, in my opinion, they're not really taught how to process their emotions. It is more like suck it up and let's carry on with things. And so if you're not taught how to process emotions, they don't just disappear. You know what I'm saying? They stay inside of you. They can stay inside of you for years and years and years until finally it maybe does come out in like an explosion of anger. I also think that the man of the house label is very harmful because I think when you're teaching young boys, especially obviously in single parent homes, that they are the man of the house, you are putting the responsibilities of a grown man on a child. So this child literally grows up feeling a little bit entitled. They're the man of the house. Well, the man of the house is also the protector. And generally, protection comes from you punch someone in the throat, stay away from my girlfriend, or,
Yeah.
you're not having tea. Like, come
Right.
over for tea. Let's work this out.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that it's a lot of factors, but I think like placing like grown man things on little boys, yes, you do need to teach them to be tough and to be protectors and all of these things, but you need to teach them how to channel that stuff in a healthy way. But also, these things carry out through generations. Um, my father was kind of like an emotionally unavailable father, but did he just wake up one day and that's how he is? No, like he had to get that from somewhere. So I think it's environmental. I think it's generational. I think it's like these societal norms that we've created that are just not very healthy. And then we have like the boys will be boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And same with girls. Girls will be, it applies to women too. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different factors that contribute.
That's a good point about telling the boy he's the man of the house. John Eldridge has a book, Wild at Heart, and he talks about that. And he says in the book, you cannot put that role or you can't put that title on a kid because they have to go through the stages of childhood. And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm glad that our listeners can hear that because I think I'm 46, so I'm an 80s kid, and I know growing up that was kind of you heard that a lot, like, "Oh, you're the man of the house now, dad's gone." It's like,
Yeah.
"Dude, I'm 5.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?" It's like
Yeah.
'cause
Right.
me personally growing up, my dad was active duty, so he was gone a lot, and I'm the oldest, so I kinda got put in that role sometimes, and, as a little kid, I didn't think about it, but as I got older, I was kinda like, "Man, that's kinda messed up, dude, like, what am I gonna do?" So I've always had
Absolutely.
this protector kind of thing about like, I heard you telling your story and I was ready to go beat that guy's ass just hearing you talk about it because it makes me like,
Yeah.
and that's one reason I got into law enforcement is because, according to the Enneagram, I'm an 8, so I don't like injustice. And so I want to be a
Yeah.
protector. And obviously in the Bible, it tells us men are supposed to protect and provide
Yeah.
for God's woman. But yeah, I was just curious what your take was on that because I haven't dived into that a lot yet on this
Yeah.
platform. It is something that I do think needs to be talked about more because let's be honest,
Mhm.
I know of at least 5 guys from my old department that got hemmed up on DV charges. So, off duty, but, I think it's more common than maybe we hear about. So with your master's in, forensic psychology, have you worked a lot of cases that kind of were related to some of the life experiences you had? Can you kinda dive into that a little bit?
No, I hadn't been able to actually work in the field beyond like little internships because there was some life events that happened in between there. I finished my master's in like 2013 and I in between that and now I had suffered a couple of miscarriages. I had the abusive relationship with my son's father. Um so there was always something like getting in the way of me being able to do that. So I just had to always just get some kind of job out of necessity and put the stuff that I wanted to do on the back burner. Um
How old's your son?
he is 10.
Okay, I have a
He'll be
seven-year-old.
11.
That's why I asked.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. Yeah, he'll be
yeah,
11 this year.
nice.
Yeah, we made it this far. We're all in one piece.
There you go, there you go. Well, and that's understandable, like, kinda obviously, you're gonna have, you know, having a son that changes a little bit of the course when it comes to
Yeah.
career and jobs, and I totally understand that. Can we get into what you're doing now as far
Mhm.
as, with your podcast and your
Yeah.
writing, and you put out a lot of good stuff. I mean, you put out a
Oh,
lot of
thank you.
yeah, inspirational things, and, I love how you kinda break down just mental health in general because I
Yeah.
know for me, I was kind of the person that never took it serious until there's an old saying I've heard where basically the house is on fire and you're standing in the yard with the box of matches and then you're looking around going, what happened?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of was my journey into me personally mental health. So I think it's great that you're putting out so much stuff to help people. So I'm just kind of curious, like what is your podcast looking like right now? And as far as your writing, like what are you doing today?
Well, my podcast is just I try to keep them 10 minutes, but I can be a chatty gal sometimes. But they're just little mini episodes talking about like the parts of mental health recovery that we maybe don't think of. For example, this month of January, I talk about capacity versus obligation, like working until we're like, can't work anymore versus, are we doing things to like people please and how making these choices and decisions like can weigh on our mental health. So I just wanted to create a podcast where we talk about some of those nuanced things or things that people don't talk about. I'm sure once I progress, I just started it, I think last August, but once I progress, I'll probably like go more in depth. I share a little bit about my surviving trauma and how that can relate to mental health recovery, but it's just there's so many stigmas attached to mental health, and I live with depression and anxiety, and I wish that at the time when I was really struggling that there was more discussion about it and how if I skip a shower because I don't have the energy, like I'm not some grody human being, like
Mm,
that's just, personal care and stuff like that. That's a part of mental health that we don't really talk about because there's shame attached to it. Um, I'll share like when I was going through postpartum depression, um, I was not caring for myself very well. I was not going to the dentist for like several years. And the first time I finally did, I mean, I didn't have rotten teeth or anything like that, but the dentist commented that, oh, we've got to really like clean your teeth up. And I felt embarrassed. It wasn't
mm.
because I am like, let's see how many times this year I don't brush my teeth. Like, I don't want to choose that stuff. But when you're in the trenches of like depression and anxiety, you literally don't have the energy to do much of anything. And when you're a parent and you have a job and you have these responsibilities, some of those things go on the back burner sometimes, but the main point of my podcast is to bring light to those things and so people don't feel like they're alone. Um
I love the name of it, Through the Darkness. That's really cool. I like that.
it's and I have my blog, Darkness to Dialogue. I have the word darkness in my podcast and both of my mental health blogs because there is a lot of darkness when it comes to mental health recovery or trauma
Hmm.
recovery. And unfortunately, like that is a part of the process. We do not learn resilience and all that stuff, but for those dark moments. And you have to have a lot of self awareness and self honesty during those dark moments, or you will continue to stay in those dark moments. The light comes in when you begin to recognize, I need a little more work here, or this isn't working for me, or it's time to let this go. That's how you can let the light back in when you're letting go of those things that are holding you back. And
Well
then
said. Well
as
said. Yeah.
as far as my blogging goes, I love blogging. Like when I get mad or having a bad day, I just blog. Like I think of topics and let me write about this. And that's where I kind of use my degree is I love research. I absolutely love it. And I make sure that my blogs are research based because of course I can sit here and say, yeah, I smell the roses every day for my mental health. But okay, that's great. But it'd be nice to know that there's some scientific backing for these things because there's so much of mental health that is tied to like neuroscience and your nervous system that knowing some of that scientific stuff can actually help you understand why things are happening and kind of how to address it.
It's a good point. Yeah. I love the fact that you're so authentic about it too, and not just some folks are like, "Oh yeah, do this," like you just said, smell the roses. Mental health, it's great. It's, "Oh yeah, just do this," but you're actually speaking from a place where no, it takes work, and you still have
Mhm.
things you have to focus on. I'm the same way. I still sit in shame. I still sit in grief periodically, and so I think it's great to hear your perspective, especially for our listeners, so they can understand like, hey, mental health is an ongoing thing. It's not
Yes.
it's not you just, hey, I set a goal in 6 weeks, I'm going to be a rock star. No, you got to
Yes.
do it every single day. It's an
Absolutely.
ongoing journey. Um, so I want to ask you this, Carolyn. So the word darkness, you're a Christian, you were raised in the church, and I'm gonna kind of probably get your hair stand up a little bit on your arms because mine's already going. But what is your take on mental health and spiritual warfare? And you don't have to go into a big thing about it. I just want to ask you that, and kind of get your perspective.
This is so, like, hanky that you're asking me this because I promise you yesterday, I was, like, doing, like, my voice recorder and, like, recording some notes because I promise you, I have experienced spiritual warfare in terms
Okay.
of my mental health. I'm trying to think of, like, how to explain this. I believe that because I'm adopted, there was something going on in my birth mother's life where I believe Satan would have won if I had stayed in that situation. The only way for me to know God and to know that light was for my mom to give me up basically and
Wow.
send me to another that's the only way I can reconcile with like being adopted is to know that it was for a higher purpose because I don't think I would have known God like I do now if my birth mother had kept me. Again, I don't know her circumstances, but you have to think that if somebody who has carried a child with them for 9 months has to then say goodbye, like that's such a sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? And for
Oh,
me
yeah.
to like look at it in a positive light, I know Satan has had his grips on me since the beginning. I was in my kitchen 2 years ago, literally saying to the devil, like, "Stop. Like, just stop already. You're not gonna get me. You
Yeah.
can keep trying. You can keep trying. You've put me in this situation, this situation. I've had this trauma, that trauma. But look, I'm still here. You're not gonna get me. You are not." I rebuke Satan like all the time, several times a day. Like my computer's acting crazy. Like, Satan, get out here.
That's
I'm gonna do this post. Like this post
yeah.
is going through whether you want it to or not. And I feel those spiritual attacks when I'm going to do a podcast interview, if I'm getting ready to post a blog entry for everybody. I sometimes feel those things and I have yet to kind of delve into what I think about Christianity and mental health, but I
Mhm.
do know that I have especially with depression, that depression is a monster. The world seems so dim, so hopeless, like just so ugly and terrible that when you get in those dark places and it's not even like me thinking I don't want to be here. You just sometimes resign yourself to the darkness and that's exactly what Satan wants us to do.
Mhm.
He wants us to resign ourselves to that darkness. And I've been told like on several occasions that I have like a bright aura. And the people who have pointed that out to me haven't been people that I would consider to be friends.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I have
Well,
been
that
told that by people that I know are threatened by that. And look, I'm not sitting on my high horse,
I
like
know you're
trying to
not.
be
I know you're
arrogant
not.
and all that
No,
stuff.
you're not. Mm-mm.
The light and the dark thing in terms of Christianity, you guys, if you believe out there and you're listening, you don't, but that stuff is real. That is that is some real stuff. On my 44th birthday, I was crying because who likes their birthday, especially in their 40s? But I was crying and I promise I closed my eyes and I had 3 instances where God told me I was there with you, and I'm gonna try not to cry. One of the times was in the closet in that abusive relationship. Ugh.
Just sit in it for a minute. You don't have to talk.
The other time was when I woke up during the sexual assault, and then the other time was the night I tried to commit suicide. And my 44th birthday was just this last September, and it was the craziest experience I've ever had in my entire life. He literally showed me these flashbacks and was like, "I was there with you. Like, you weren't alone. Like, you've spent so much of your life thinking that you've been alone. And, in a lot of aspects, you haven't been. There's been people around, but I have always been there with you." And it's so interesting because you would think when you struggle with mental health, like, how can you believe in something that you don't see or that you can't show to somebody? But I can show that to them because I am a representation that God is real. I shouldn't be alive. There's been several times that I wasn't supposed to see the next day. I've been spared from even more unimaginable scenarios than I've even described here. And so, if you're wondering if God is real, watch interviews like this where people are testifying about that. And I'm not a Bible thumper, as they say. I'm never going to try to really, coax people to see my way. But if you ever wondered if God is real, take a look at your neighbors and some of your family members and friends who weren't supposed to be here. And there's
Mhm.
so many things that happen in our life that I can't explain it except for that was God. So,
I'm glad you shared that. Thank you so much for
yeah,
sharing that. And I want to add this to it because this is how I see it. So I have a very similar belief system that you do, and I used to struggle with a lot of like I was afraid of God. I grew up in the church, but I felt like I was always letting him down, and I
yeah.
just wasn't worthy of life. I wasn't worthy of heaven. What I have discovered through getting back into the faith and working on my mental health is we all have a testimony.
Mhm.
You have had the courage to share yours tonight. You're a threat to the enemy because Satan wants us to stay quiet.
Yeah.
And I was the guy when I was drinking all the time and just being an idiot. I believed in Christ and I was a Christian, but I wasn't living for him. And I was ashamed of my behavior. So I wouldn't talk about Jesus or I
Yeah.
wouldn't talk about. So in that scenario, Satan was winning because I was too afraid to tell my story. And so what I've learned through my process is you can't have a testimony without a test.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be Ned Flanders. I use that analogy all the time. I was
Yeah.
trying to be Ned Flanders when I was a kid. Like I thought you
Yep.
couldn't make a mistake. So
Yep.
what I have learned as maybe as a rogue or unconventional Christian is we have God loves us no matter what. He's never
Yeah.
going to leave us. He's never going to forsake us. And Christ died on the cross for you, for me, for everybody listening. Whether you believe in him or not, he died for you.
Right.
And Satan cannot touch you if you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God because you were covered in his blood. He
Yep.
can mess with you, but he
Yep.
cannot take you to hell. You are
Yep.
you are God's child. You belong to Jesus. And so what I have learned through this whole mental health process is, and Steve Morris's opinion, you cannot fully have a well-rounded mental health, however the technical term is, without Christ as the foundation because he is the only thing in this whole world
Yeah.
that he's going to love you no matter what. It's unconditional love. He's always going to be
Yeah.
there. And like you just shared with us, he was with you through all of that. I'm not going to get into all my stuff because it's not about me tonight, but I've had experiences with self-harm, suicide, just all kinds of stuff. And I know even when I wasn't like at church every Sunday, I wasn't reading my Bible, he was there
Yeah.
and he said, "Hey, it's not your time yet. You have,"
Yes.
and I really feel like he's given me this podcast as a platform to not only help people, but to share his message to people
Yes.
that may not feel worthy of church or understand who God is. And I'm no expert. I'm not a preacher. I don't have a background in it, but I just wanted to hear your opinion on that because I really
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of us out there that have these powerful testimonies that tied back into Christianity. So
Yes.
we don't have to be this, perfect legalistic churchgoer in order to spread the gospel of Christ.
Absolutely. And I remember in middle school sharing some of my testimony. So I know that Satan's been fighting hard. He's been fighting for 44 years, but sorry, buddy. You're gonna have
Well,
to keep trying. Well, please don't keep trying, but
take the night off. Take
but
the night off. Yeah, take the
right.
night off.
Let's take the next decade off.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
been through it enough.
That's funny. Well, that's why I prayed before the episode over the equipment. I mean,
Right.
I believe in it too, and I rebuke him, and I go through this whole pregame thing I do before I come on the air because
I hear you.
I mean I'm pissing him off all the time.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, but
Absolutely.
I don't fear Satan like I did when I was younger. I respect him, but I don't fear him.
Right.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I finally learned what my identity in Christ is. With all
Yes.
this being said, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you
Okay.
have do you have a favorite verse, or is there a particular book of the Bible that just kind of jumps out at you or has kind of helped you through some of your trials that you've gone through? A certain one that jumps out at you?
I love the book of Proverbs.
Oh, there we go. I love it too. It's a great book.
I love it. To me, it's look, the Old Testament, I love it, but the big words and thee and thou and some of that stuff, it
Yeah.
muddles the message for me. But Proverbs has that is the book of life right there for me.
Yeah, it
Like
is. You're right.
everything is in there. And it's like so easy to understand. And I love the book of Proverbs. I think a Bible story that resonated with me the most as a kid was the story of the prodigal son. Even though I'm not a boy, it was like the general message of it because of my childhood, I always saw myself as less than. And whenever I would hear that story, I would picture myself like when I'm grown up, I'm going to come back home and my parents are going to be like so proud of me and this and this. That's not how it worked out, but that was a story that I think just always gave me hope. Like, even though my life is crazy, like right now as a kid, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. Somewhere down the line, I'm going to have like that triumphant ending where I'm strolling down somebody's, front driveway saying, "Hey, you guys, I'm here." Like, and everyone's going to be so excited and proud to see me. Um, so I thank God. I do thank God every day that I know God, because if I didn't know God, I'm sure I wouldn't be here. I'm sure I wouldn't, because I had such negative things tugging at me throughout my life that it really is God that saved me and to be able to be here today.
Amen. I'm gonna blow your mind real quick. So I have the Bible app on my phone and
Okay.
I do the verse of the day every day. So I had my son this morning, he went back to his mom tonight. So this morning I was taking him to school and we did it in the morning before he left. But today's verse is from the book of Proverbs,
That's
chapter
crazy.
18, verse 10. And it is, the name of the Lord is like a strong tower. Those who do what is right can run to him for protection. That verse alone, I think, sums up our whole episode tonight, which is a God nod in
Yes,
itself. That's pretty wild. I love it
it
when
is.
God's funny. It's funny how he just puts things together like
Yeah,
that. But that's
yeah,
pretty
totally.
amazing. Well, as we're wrapping up, I want to ask you if there's a person listening or watching right now and they're on the edge of giving up, what would you say to that individual?
Don't Please don't give up. Please don't give up. Like, whatever it is that you're searching for, whether it's peace or happiness, love, acceptance, it's out there for you. It's out there for you. Um, Stay another day. Like, just please stay. Like, there's people who care about you. Strangers care about you. Strangers care about you. There's people that want you here. God wants you here. And I think just knowing that you're not alone. I mean, we say that all the time, but you really are not alone. Look, there's two people right here who are cheering for you, and we're strangers. We don't know you. I don't know who's listening to this, who's going to watch this. I'm cheering for you. I'm cheering for anybody that's hurting and thinking that staying around another day is not going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
Amen. Good. Well said. Where can our listeners learn more about you?
Oh, I'm all over. So
Okay.
they just got to Google me.
Okay.
That's the easiest way. Like, if you Google Caralyn Dreyer, I'm on look, I'm trying to tell you, Satan is not stopping what I'm doing. I'm on every single platform.
Nice. Nice.
Everyone,
Okay.
TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that stuff. You can just
Awesome.
Google me, Google my name, and you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to pray us out real quick. And do you have any prayer requests or anything that you want to add before I do the prayer?
You know what, Steve? We need to pray for our world right now. It is a hot mess
It
for
is.
so many reasons. And this is a scary time for a lot of people. So I just think we should pray for the world.
Okay. Sure. Okay. You ready? Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for just bringing Carolyn in this episode. And I'm so grateful, Lord, to be able to hear her testimony and to just be inspired by her story. She is a warrior for you, Lord. She has got a powerful testimony. And I know that it is going to encourage so many people out there. And Lord, you are so good. She and I both would not be here today if it was not for you. And I am just grateful for all the blessings that you bestowed upon me. And I pray that you bless her and her family. Continue to cover her in your blood, Lord. We are a threat to the enemy and we're fighting, Lord. We are here to serve you and to spread your gospel. And we're also here to help people by raising awareness for mental health, Lord. And I pray everyone listening right now that you will fill them with peace, that you will fill them with power and also purpose, and just let them know, Lord, that their life has meaning and that they bring value to this world. And Lord, our world is a dumpster fire right now. And we know, Lord, as believers, this is not our home, that we will be with you in heaven someday. But until you return, we're here on earth. And I just pray for protection, Lord, that you'll be with the leadership in this country, be with those on the front lines, first responders, the military, teachers, just everyone that's in harm's way right now, Lord. And just give us some guidance. And I just pray for some order because we need it. We need some order in this world. There's so much chaos, and Lord, I know that Satan is doing his thing, and he likes to see all this destruction and chaos. And as followers of you, Lord, I just pray we can stay strong and courageous, and know that you're always with us, and we'll wear your armor and just do our mission. And I pray that you will bless both of these platforms, my podcast and Carolyn's podcast, that will be able to help people by spreading positive messages for mental health and your gospel, Lord. It's in your mighty name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And please share this episode with a friend or someone you might know that needs to hear it. And be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, Peace, Power, and Purpose Podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. Carolyn, this was an incredible episode. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great. I'm so
It was.
grateful for you and thank you for having the courage to share your testimony and to just enlighten so many viewers tonight. It was inspirational. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.